The US market still looks like it's in a bull phase, but the protection system underneath it is getting weaker. For years the playbook was simple. When stocks fell, money moved into treasuries and dollars. That helped stabilize the whole system. This time, that playbook may not work. Treasuries themselves are becoming part of this problem. So if stocks break, investors may not have the same safe place to hide. That's why Trump keeps leaning into the market story. AI excitement, semiconductor momentum, and mega IPOs kept global money flowing into US assets until last week. And as long as stocks keep rising, the administration can keep pointing to the market as proof that economy is strong.
Jobs numbers, we have record jobs. We have more people working in the United States today than at any time in the history of our country. You see the numbers on the stock exchange. We have 73 new highs, and that's during a military conflict. Oil and gas, it's lower during a military conflict than it was during the Biden administration.
But if stocks collapse, the pressure doesn't stop inside the stock market. It moves straight into the dollar, the bond market, and the broader US financial system. Because foreign investors need dollars to buy US stocks, when demand for US stocks weakens, demand for dollars can weaken with it. A falling stock market and a falling dollar can move together because both depend on global demand for American assets. So the US stock market is still the last bright spot in the system. If that starts fading, investors need somewhere else to hide. And this time, the usual hiding place may not work. The real danger is a correction where stocks fall, treasuries fall, and the dollar weakens together. That would break the old playbook investors have relied on for decades. The debt problem has reached to a point where interest costs are becoming structural. By 2036, interest on the national debt could consume 30% of all government revenue. That is 5.3% of GDP just to service existing debt. At this point, the Treasury may have to run deficits of 8, 9 or even 10% of GDP just to keep the system moving. And when debt reaches that stage, the exit becomes very ugly. The US is probably not going to stand up and say it will not pay its debt. That kind of outright default is not the main risk. The more likely path is default through money printing. Bondholders still receive dollars. The problem is that those dollars buy less and less. So on paper, the debt gets paid. In real terms, bondholders get crushed because their return turned negative after inflation and currency depreciation. This is why treasuries are becoming harder to defend as a clean, safe haven. The buyer base has also changed. Central banks are no longer the dominant force in the treasury market. Their holdings have barely moved and still sit around $3.8 trillion. That is the major retreat from the most reliable buyers the US ever had. The new buyers are more volatile. We're talking about private investors, money market funds, mutual funds, and retail traders. These buyers are much more sensitive to price. They watch yields every day. If yields spike or bond prices fall, they can exit quickly, and once selling begins, more selling can follow. That creates a serious problem because the market is now relying heavily on the remaining source of confidence, US stocks. And that confidence is already starting to weaken. The S&P has fallen by more than 2% from its highs in recent days. And this time the immediate trigger was the semiconductor sell-off. Semiconductor stocks were already priced for perfection, valuations were stretched, expectations were extremely high, and investors were acting like the shortage premium could last forever. Hormuz is closed and chip prices are elevated, so there is still pressure on supply. But several forces are now hitting the market at the same time. Massive AI IPOs, including SpaceX, are draining liquidity away from broader market. Money that could normally support existing stocks is being pulled toward the next big listing. At the same time, rate hikes are becoming more likely for 2027, and inflation is already hurting consumer demand. That means the market is facing pressure from both sides, less liquidity going in and weaker demand coming from the real economy. Then there is China. China is preparing to flood the world with cheap memory chips, and that could destroy the shortage premium currently supporting semiconductor stocks. If that premium disappears, a major part of the AI and the chip rally starts losing its foundation. And now, White House officials are openly warning about the danger. They are saying that the rate hikes could collapse everything and even plunge the US into darkness. That tells you how trapped the administration feels right now.
And what Kevin Warsh is going to have to fight is stupidity on there. So please, do not raise interest rates into the teeth of a supply side shock. If they raise rates, or even if they start talking about raising rates, it's ahistorical. It's stupid. Greenspan and Bernanke never did that.
The important part is what the wording reveals. If rates rise, stock valuations get hit. If rates stay too low, inflation and bonds get worse. Either path creates pressure. And the next shock may come from a place many investors are still treating as a side story: Japan. The Bank of Japan has reached a point where it has no other choice but to hike rates. Currency intervention alone has not worked. Japan already dumped $74 billion in May to defend the yen, and it didn't create any lasting result. The yen came right back under pressure. That tells the market something important. Tokyo can keep spending money to slow the move, but intervention is no longer enough to change the direction. And speculators are making the situation even more unstable. They are still aggressively shorting the yen, with around $11 billion in active short positions, with the highest level since 2024. If the yen suddenly reverses, those positions could be forced to unwind quickly. So now the BOJ is moving toward 25 basis point rate hike. The expected window is June 15 to 16, and if that happens, Japanese rates would move into the highest level since 1995. That is the huge shift for a country that spent decades with ultra-low rates. The problem is that the most market participants have not fully priced this in yet. And when Japan hikes short-term rates, long-term rates are likely to move higher too. That changes the entire calculation for Japanese investors holding foreign assets. Japan is not the small-side player in this story. Japanese investors have enormous exposure to US markets. Just 2 years ago, they held more than 340 trillion yen in US stocks and bonds combined. In dollar terms, that is around $2.2 trillion sitting in American markets. These investors are not going to hold US assets because the US and Japan are allies. They are going to look at risk, return, currency exposure, and what they can earn at home. If Japanese yields rise enough, US assets become less attractive. For years, Japan had ultra-low yields, so investors had to go abroad to find returns. That pushed money into US stocks, US bonds, and the dollar assets. But if Japan finally offers decent return at home, the overseas chase becomes much less necessary. The shift is already showing up in real capital flows. In May alone, Japanese investors made one of their biggest exits from foreign assets in recent memory. They sold $70 billion worth of foreign assets in a single month. And that happened before the Bank of Japan formally signaled a rate hike. So if the BOJ actually moves, the outflow number can get much larger, because the reason to keep money overseas becomes weaker. The detail of what they are selling are important too. In March and April, Japanese investors dumped more than 1.5 trillion yen worth of US bonds. But during the same period, they were still buying US equities. That means they had already started losing confidence in US bonds, while American stocks were still the last US assets they trusted. A rate hike changes that calculation. In 2022, the 30-year Japanese government bond yielded less than 1%. That kind of return wasn't enough to meet long-term obligations, so institutions had to send money overseas and chase higher returns in the US. At today's levels, when Japanese long-term bonds yield approach to 4%, domestic government bonds suddenly offer enough return without currency risk, without geopolitical risk, and without the complexity of holding foreign assets. Investors no longer need to sell dollars, convert into yen, and worry about policy shocks from Washington. And they no longer need to reach all the way into American markets just to find yield. If that reversal grows, pressure can hit US stocks, US bonds, and the dollar asset at the same time. And the timing is exactly what makes it dangerous. The situation in the Middle East has already moved back into danger zone. A US Apache helicopter was shot down and Trump has vowed retaliation. The ceasefire is effectively over. The US Navy has already launched new strikes against Iran, and the administration is calling them proportional responses. But proportional responses often invite more counter-responses. Once that cycle starts, oil infrastructure, pipelines, and shipping routes become obvious targets. Iran has already shown how painful this can become for the US. They can use $50,000 drone to bring down military aircraft worth tens of millions of dollars. That kind of asymmetric warfare becomes extremely expensive for Washington, and it keeps the oil crisis alive. Energy prices can move higher, inflation gets worse, and the Federal Reserve gets pushed closer to rate hikes. The bond market is already sending that message. The 2-year Treasury yield has shot past the actual Fed funds rate. That almost never happens in normal conditions. It means the market is pressuring the Fed toward higher rates, whether officials want to admit it or not. And that's why Bessent cannot openly admit that inflation is a genuine crisis. If he admits it, he also admits that rate hikes may be necessary, and rate hikes would hit stock valuation, pressure bonds, and damage the last major pillar of confidence in the US market.
Electricity bills are up 8.5%. Is that golden?
Sir, you can ask.
Yes or no?
You can ask
Yes
me a
or
question.
no?
You can't tell me how to answer it. So,
Okay, let me put it this way, Mr. Secretary, because you're obviously not here to answer questions.
I am here to
You're
answer.
Higher rates also hit Trump's manufacturing strategy. Factory loans get more expensive, inputs cost more, labor financing becomes harder. Foreign companies lose the incentive to put money into US production. Japan is especially important here because it's the biggest foreign investor in the US by wide margin, with almost $820 billion in FDI by 2024. That includes manufacturing plants, supply chain facilities, technology partnerships, and real physical capital. If US rates stay high while the dollar weakens, those investments become less attractive when returns are converted back into local currency. Japan is a piece to watch now. A BOJ hike wouldn't stay inside Japan. It could force global investors to rethink US treasuries, US stocks, and the dollar at the same time. So will Japan shock global markets with the rate decision? And if Japanese money starts moving back home, how painful could it become for the US stock market? Let me know what your thoughts in the comments, and as always, gently press the like button and share the video with your friends. See you in the next one.